Hey everyone, this is Bishop Nathan Hinckley, welcoming you to a special edition tonight. Now, if you've come here hoping for the most polished episode you've ever witnessed, you might as well keep moving on. This is just going to be some friends hanging out. I see people joining us, and this is going to be really fun. So we're going to be relying a lot on you guys tonight. I'll be checking the comments. I see some people I know. Porter, what's up? Mark, hey, how's it going? We've got Sneaky up in the comments, and so we're going to have some fun tonight. Hopefully, everybody's settled in and ready to have some good times. So here's what we're going to do. I'm putting the link in the chat, and you are welcome to join at any time throughout the night or throughout the stream. You can join with your face. You can join audio only. If you know me and you have my phone number, you can just call me. We're just going to have fun however we can have it. Hey, Ginger, thanks for joining. I do have two people already in the studio. I want to go ahead and bring them in. We have Ruth and we have Masterpiece, which this feels like a family reunion. This is the two people that I interviewed first on my channel. So this is awesome. Thanks for being here.
Of course.
Thanks for inviting us. This will be fun.
All right. So again, guys, this is for fun. You know, if you're looking for something serious, this probably will not be it. Porter wants to know what I'm sipping on. Porter, this is a mimosa. That's what this is. Oh, my wife's on here. That's great. She's not
Hi, Amy.
Yeah, she's not feeling too good, but she's joining us there. Lisa says, did storms hit up there? Yeah, it rained pretty good. Oh my gosh, I've got to bring in this person that just waltzed right into the studio. I want everyone to say hello to my best friend. This is Craig. Can I use your name? CS?
Yeah, you can use my name. Of course.
This is Craig Sobey. Can I give some background of who you are, or would you like to do that, Craig?
As long as you're nice, sure.
Craig
Go for
Sobey is my best friend. He was our drummer in our band. He was my first counselor in my bishopric, and he is a current bishop in Florida. And I'm so thrilled that he's here. Cultural Hall's up in the chat. What's up, Cultural Hall? I want everyone to know that you are free to come and go in and out of the studio as you want. Just don't leave the door open. We're paying to heat this place, so feel free. Cultural Hall wants to know where in Florida, Craig. Why don't you tell a little bit about yourself?
About as far south as you can get before you hit Cuba. So very, very, very South Florida, even farther south than Miami.
So let me address the elephant in the room. You might be thinking, there's no way that guy is a bishop. He is indeed a current serving bishop. How long have you been bishop, Craig?
About 8 months.
8 months. Are you still getting your feet?
That's impressive.
Are you still getting your feet wet? That's right, the long hair. And I've got to tell what he told me. He says, "Listen, this is fine, but they asked me to shave or cut my hair, and that's where I draw the line."
That's where I draw the line.
Oh, nice.
So far, they're happy that they could get anybody. So I think they're treading lightly here.
Well, I will just say that through we're not going to get all mushy and stuff right now tonight. This is different, but through all of my tough times of what I call deconstruction, Craig Sobey has been the one like rock for me. He has not thrown away our friendship. He's not treated me like crap. He's been there for me, and I'm that's right, Nathan. That's right. Current bishop. He's been there for me, and I'm here for him. And you guys will find out that he is a stud of a guy. Plays drums, plays fiddle. Let me go ahead and plug his YouTube channel because he actually got me interested in YouTubing. It is Random Dad Stuff. Now, when I looked it up, I saw others. Is there others?
There are others, but there's only one original, you know.
So they're copycats.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
I mean, yeah, you'll see some others that have maybe a dozen or videos, but I think I just posted video number 280 something.
Okay.
So yeah.
Everybody give Craig a like on that and subscribe, please. So let me go ahead and introduce our other two guests. Some of you guys, and obviously anyone that wants to come in, the link is there and we'll get you on. We have Ruth and Masterpiece. Real quick, Ruth, tell us about yourself real quick since you're in here. Oh, you're muted.
I'm still in Arizona. I actually, was it Craig? We talked about his hair. When I was called as Relief Society president, I had just dyed my hair dark purple. And I said, I'll take the calling, but I'm not dyeing my hair a different color. So I used to feel real weird in the temple with purple hair, but that's okay. I've been out of the church about a year now, and I like to talk about my deconstruction because I think it can be helpful to other people. So that's me.
Thanks, Ruth. Masterpiece, what's up?
Hey, I grew up in the church. I left about 4 years ago now. I love Mormon history and all the ancient stuff from the old days. So I have my own Masterpiece Mormon Facebook page where I do a lot of Mormon history cartoons, kind of telling stories from Mormon history along with all the sources and everything. So I pop up on podcasts with various research and things that I found, and I've got a nice collection of really fun Mormon folklore stories for tonight. So
cool. Cultural Hall wants to know what part of Arizona, Ruth?
I'm in Surprise, just
Oh,
outside of.
All right, and Masterpiece, you're going to be working that pipe again tonight?
heck yeah. It's fake, but it's there.
Yeah, I feel like I need a scarf or something.
All right. Hey, we got Songs with us. Yeah, she was just joined us the other night too. So that's really cool. All right, guys. So tonight I wanted to talk about either Mormon myths. Here, I even have some slides here. Let me see. Either Mormon myths or just batshit crazy stories. Now, I have some stuff to fill the time, but that is only if you guys don't pipe up. I'll give you some examples. We'll get to Mormon myths in a second, and just some examples. Craig, you will remember this story. I'm bishop. Guy comes in off the street, and somehow they funnel him to me. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to do that. But I find him in my bishop's office, and he's like, all right, I've been sent here to give the opening prayer, the closing prayer, and to teach a lesson or something like that. And I'm like,
he wanted to speak in sacrament too.
And to speak in, he wanted to do it all. And I'm like, well, hell, if I'd have known you'd do that, I wouldn't have scheduled it. So I said, well, buddy, that's not how we do things. You know, I appreciate it. And he was pretty rough. He was kind of shaky and stuff. And I just told him, you know, of course, I'm watching his hands the whole time, you know, that they say you got to watch people's, but I just said, I'm sorry, but that's not the way we do things. And the stake president was actually there that same day, or actually the counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And on the way out of we were ushering. I had my whole posse. We were ushering him out of the building, and he got a hold of Figuera. You remember Craig? And he started in on him. Well, someone said, "Well, he's the guy in charge," or something like that. And he's like, "Well, I'm here to preach and teach." It was wild. I mean, so that's just just a little story.
I even remember the guy's name.
Seriously?
He called himself Utah Williams.
That's right.
I mean, this was what, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I still remember he rode his bike there, and the church was kind of like in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, you rode your bike here? Okay.
So, that's kind of what I wanted to do tonight. This is just friends hanging out. Again, come and go as you please. But we do, if you don't have a personal story, just to give you an idea, there is a Facebook group of about 20,000 people and it's a Mormon Stories community page. It's where people like some of us kind of share some stories and things. Anyways, I started a poll, and my poll was just, all right, give me some myths that you've heard. And I'm just going to run through the first page. And if there's a period of time where nobody's sharing, I'll share the rest. But here's some examples. That there were elevator shafts left open by Revelation in the Salt Lake Temple for future use. That's probably one of the most popular Mormon myths. Or that Jesus looks absolutely just like this particular painting that we have. Or that somebody's patriarchal blessing says they'll be on earth during the second coming. We've all heard that type of story. That Cain still walks among the earth along with John the Revelator and the 3 Nephites. We've all heard that type of story. And then someone had added about garments and how they give a specific physical protection. And we've heard lots of stories where somebody's body was burned, but not where their garments were and things like that. So, that's the kind of thing. I have about 7 pages, and we can all comment, "Oh, I've heard that," or that's absolute, garbage or whatever. But so I will fill in the gaps. I did have someone come into the studio who is a non-member. I'm going to have a problem because I said Craig's my best friend, but he's also a really good friend. So I might get some fighting, but looks like he stepped away from his computer. I'll bring him in a little bit. But why don't we have Ruth, Masterpiece, or Craig, if anyone wants to go ahead and share something. I'm going to check the comments for
with the list that you just talked about. You talked about Cain, and I happen to have this great book right here. I'll just read it for you. It's a story by David Patton's account of meeting a very remarkable person who said he was Cain. As I was riding along the road on my mule, I suddenly noticed a very strange personage walking beside me. His head was about even with my shoulders as I sat in my saddle. He wore no clothing, but he was covered with hair. His skin was very dark. I asked him where he dwelt, and he replied that he had no home and that he was a wanderer in the earth and traveled to and fro. He said that he was a very miserable creature, that he had earnestly sought death during his sojourn upon the earth, but that he could not die, and his mission was to destroy the souls of men. About the time he expressed himself thus, I rebuked him in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and by virtue of the holy priesthood, and commanded him to go hence, and he immediately departed out of my sight. So there's a first-hand account of Cain in this book.
So David Patton was an apostle. He was the head of Brigham Young in seniority, but he died leading a Danite army against a militia in Missouri. So that's why he wasn't in charge.
So, all right, there's 4 people on the screen. Did you guys at one point believe this Cain story when you heard it? I
Yeah.
certainly did.
Yeah.
I heard it. I never believed
See,
believed
that
that.
is that is why Craig is where he's at, because he has a way to just sift through the bull crap, in my opinion.
Well, and
I
I've
believed
also
it.
heard that people say the Sasquatch is Cain.
Yep.
And recently, I just read a news story that there was 2 hikers that went missing who went out looking for Sasquatch in Oregon. So
Maybe he got him.
Got 'em.
It was the two Nephites.
he got. Why
Instead of
didn't the 3
of them.
Nephites come and save him? You know. So
Yeah.
years ago, I think this was probably before I met Nathan. I was in the habit of scooping up domain names, and the one that I got was called 3nephitesightings.com.
Oh, nice.
And I never did anything with it, but I was like, there's got to be lots. I've heard all these stories of people. I was out in the middle of the desert trying to fix a flat tire, and all of a sudden this guy came out of the bushes and fixed my tire, and then disappeared into the desert. But my mother-in-law loves these kind of stories, which we call faith-promoting lies. I mean, it's a great story, and it can really uplift you, and give you a good go get 'em kind of feeling, but it's very unlikely that that those kind of things happen. But yeah, with the 3 Nephite sightings, I don't know if anybody's got any specific stories of that, but I always hear various.
Let's talk about the 3 Nephites.
Yeah, I think they're
for a
mechanics
second.
because they're always helping people with their cars.
Yeah.
I have a story
knew?
from Orson Pratt on the 3 Nephites.
Let's hear it, Masterpiece.
All right, this is from Masterful Discourses by Orson Pratt, page 338. It says, "The Lord said, when the record should come forth in the latter days, that he would send his messengers to them. And among these messengers, he mentioned 3 persons who lived some 1800 years ago, 3 of the 12 who were chosen on this land. We hear that these messengers have come, not in one instance alone, but in many instances. Already we have heard some 1,400 Indians, and I do not know, but there may be more, who have been baptized. Ask them why they have come so many hundreds of miles to find elders of the church, and they will reply, such a person came to us. He spoke in our language, instructed us, and told us what to do, and we have come in order to comply with his requirements."
Well, I don't know what to make of these, because there's so many of these that just sound so believable, and it's in our scriptures, but it is what it is. I'm going to bring in two more people into the studio. I have some of you will recognize this face. This is here we are, Nathan and Emily. What's up? So
Hey, Nathan.
yeah, so Nathan was another one of my interviews. He was the one that I had done in person first, the mile marker 365.
356.
There we go. And his lovely and beautiful wife, Emily. So these two are rock stars, bishop in our stake. And then I also want to bring in, if he's cool with it, my non-member good friend, Chris. What's up, Chris?
Yo.
All right. So why don't we hit this story from Chris real quick? It's not really a crazy story. Now, he might have something else to add, but I texted him today. I was like, Chris, you should come on tonight. You want me to tell it, or do you want to tell it, Chris?
Well, I don't know. How accurate do we want to be?
All right, I'll tell it and you correct me.
All right, fair enough.
All right, so Chris and I used to debate each other a little bit on Mormon stuff. He was, I'm going to say Baptist, because if you're not Mormon, you're Baptist in the right? If you're not Mormon, you're Baptist. So he was Baptist. I was Mormon. We fought all the time. Come to find out, he was right about a lot of stuff. But anyways, my brother, we're all active. We're all faithful. My brother goes to General Conference, Salt Lake City, and he's walking up to conference and comes face to face with our mutual best friend, Chris. And it's just like, are you kidding me? He was protesting. He was he was calling down fire and damnation on the Mormons. Chris, is that what you were doing?
That I'm sure that's how you and your family and Derek and his wife would like to perceive it.
That I lost a lot of respect that day for my good friend, but it's been restored since then.
I served my mission in Salt Lake, so he was the guy I was arguing with during General Conference weekend. So,
Yeah, very. What year was it?
2000 to 2001.
You know,
99 to 2001.
I'm gonna say this was April of 2002.
Okay, you were just after I came home, but I would have argued with you if I was there.
Well, so just a couple corrections. First, this was on Sunday. This was at the end of the whole deal, you know, and I'd been there all weekend, and so I was not preaching fire and brimstone or anything like that. I will say that it was more a message of love, you know, without getting into all the details. But I was this also, when Derek walked up, it was also it was actually on the side of the temple opposite of the General Conference building, and so it was on the city side, if that makes sense. And
Oh yeah.
And so just right outside of the gate, you know, there's those like flower box planter, you know, big, you know, I don't know, 18 inches off the ground. I'm standing on one of them. I am speaking some truth. I am not being mean or cruel. And right. I will say that I've had many conversations with Mormons, especially back in those days, that they would come up to me, listen to me, and engage me in a conversation. And it was not a battle in any way. I mean, they honestly said, "Are you LDS?" Like, they were confused by my presentation. It was unlike anything else they were used to experiencing. Once again, I wasn't holding signs of hell and death and fire and brimstone. Let's put it that way.
Awesome, Chris.
So anyway, Derek walked out, and he was walking out. I guess headed back to his car. He sees me. I had egg on my face, and you know that shut me down. That was the last time I've been to Utah. But I will say that he and his wife did, you know, very kindly give me a place to stay that night, took me to the airport the next morning, and we did have a thorough conversation that night. I had a lot of explaining to do with Christina. So, all
right. Well, I'm going to bring you in on a future episode to dive more into not only this story but others. And by all means, you're more than welcome to continue to share with us tonight. And also, as a reminder, anyone feel free to come into the studio, go if you need to. But anyone else want to go ahead and just share some crazy stories? Emily, you got something for us?
Yeah, well, a couple of things you mentioned triggered some folklore in our family. I grew up out west in Washington State, up in the middle of the Cascade Range Mountains. And we had actually at a church-owned ranch is where I grew up on the ranch. My parents managed it. And so we had lots of people from the surrounding states, the Seattle area, and then eastern Washington come to the ranch to family camps and scout camps and that kind of stuff. But we also had a string of horses. And so some people would bring their horses and then ride up into the mountains with the horses. And we had one of our good friends who visited the ranch frequently, brought his horse and went up for kind of a hunting trip, and told the story. When he got back down to the ranch the next day, he was petrified, looked like he had seen a ghost. And he told us all about his experience of seeing Bigfoot. He said he had turned around, heard a big noise, turned around and thought that he was staring face to face with a bear. But when it came up on its hind legs, it stood erect like a person, like a man. It was not a bear. He looked him dead in the eyes. It was human eyes. And the Bigfoot just turned around and walked away.
Much like what Ruth read earlier. Apostle David, whoever's account. Yeah. I turned around and said, that's on our bookshelf. And she said, no, I got rid of those. And I said, kids, that was on our bookshelf. And she said, no, I threw those out. So
I kept a few
miracle of forgivenesses on our bookshelf. And I was saying, kids, that's in our, and she said, no, it's gone. So she has a friend who experienced that Bigfoot Cain experience.
He was sure. And that was a testimony builder to me that Cain still walked the earth, because that's what I had been taught all growing up, is that is still Cain and the descendants of Cain.
So is that
so I knew.
Careful where you camp.
Is that still your take on it?
Not so much. But I don't know.
Maybe it's Bigfoot, not Cain. Maybe it's really Bigfoot.
Maybe it's Bigfoot. The jury's still out on Bigfoot.
Careful where you camp.
But I also had a young women's leader who told us in Young Women's, as part of our Young Women's lesson one time, we were talking about the 3 Nephites. And she had been on a walk with one of her youngest children, well, with all of her children. And her youngest was I can't remember if it was in a wagon or a stroller, but somehow the wagon or stroller got away from her going down a hill. And there was a park bench at the bottom of the hill and a busy road. And that stroller was headed straight for the edge of the park bench. And she just knew her baby was going to be decapitated or go into the traffic. And at the last minute, a man sitting on the bench reached out and stopped the stroller. And she had it confirmed to her that was one of the 3 Nephites. And so I grew up with that story too.
Was he wearing a white suit?
He was not wearing a white suit. He just was.
All the stories I've heard about him, he's wearing a white suit.
And he was a mechanic.
Dressed very casually. He didn't say anything to her, and she never found out his name. But it was confirmed to her that was one of the 3 Nephites.
Mm.
So there we go.
Lucky her.
Okay, so I'm not here to say anything did or did not happen.
It is
just a chance for us to see. You're not usually able to share these kinds of stories at church or
Sunday school.
Yeah, so this is just a chance to lay it out, and people can make what they will. Just a reminder, we have nothing planned. So we have 62 people joining us. If that number hits 100, I'll text RFM, Bill Reel, and John DeLynn, and we'll see if we can
bring it on. Get them on here right now. The Southeast needs those guys. Bring them on.
Right.
So I have one story that I heard. I don't remember when it was, but and I tried to look into it a little bit and never heard much about it. But that that there was a secret gold mine somewhere in Utah Valley that I guess Masterpiece, you've probably heard this. The secret gold mine that the members found or something, and the church is still holding on to it.
This is a dream mine, and it's just up. I can't remember. It's close. It's close to the Utah County area. There was a bishop who had a vision that there was going to be a whole bunch of ore, gold, and things like that they would find, that it would help the church through the end times. So this would be helping with all the financial needs that they had during there. And so I actually have a stock certificate from the Dream Mine. It's one of my treasures.
Cool.
But when are you going to cash it in? $260 billion, cash it in.
I think it's a canceled share certificate. I just wouldn't needed a certificate to show that I had
Leave
something.
it,
Though, but,
leave it to Nathan to, to come up with a good business idea there.
So what year was that?
this would be the early 1900s.
Okay.
They have a big mine building there now, but they've never struck anything. And they had James E. Talmage go and investigate it and say, there's nothing here. He was a geologist, so he tried shooting this down. They tried to explain that this isn't a real thing, but the dream lives on.
Well, let's go on a treasure hunt.
Maybe there's
Got
200
his
and
stone now, so
Yeah, put that seer stone to
Nathan
work,
can help
Bishop
us.
Hinckley.
I have my seer stone, and I'm not afraid to use it.
No, I
You
know
still
where
have it
you
in the
got
bag,
that
it
one
needs to be
kayaking.
charged.
I know where you got that.
All right, I'm texting RFM and Bill right now because it's getting close enough. I'm gonna see if I can get them to join. But Ruth or Masterpiece, do you have something to share?
Oh, I have a great story.
Okay.
So this is the resurrection experience of Zeke Johnson. So his story, you can find it on lots of places on the internet, but I found this one just right here on familysearch.org. So it's in their family history lore. It says, I have been requested to relate an experience I had in 1908 or 1909 in San Juan County. I was just making a home in Blanding, and the whole county there was covered with trees and sagebrush. I was working hard to clear the ground to plant a few acres of corn. We had 5 acres cleared, and I started to plant the corn. My little boy, Roy, 7 or 8 years old, was there to help me plant the corn. I plowed around the plate piece, and he'd plant the furrow with the corn. Then I'd cover it and plow again, and while I was plowing that piece of ground, I discovered there were ancient houses there as a remnant of them. As I was plowing around, I noticed my plow had turned out the skeleton of a small child. The skull and the backbone, most of the bones, of course, were decayed and gone. Part of the skeleton was there, so I stopped immediately as my plow had passed it a little, and I turned and looked back against the bar of the plow between the handles. As I was looking at that little skeleton that I had plowed out and wondering, all of a sudden, to my surprise, I saw the bones begin to wiggle, and they began to change position and to take on a different color. And within a minute, there lay a beautiful little skeleton. It was a perfect little skeleton. Then I saw the inner parts of the natural body coming in, the entrails, etc. I saw the flesh coming on, and I saw the skin come on the body, where the inner parts of the body was complete. A beautiful head of hair adorned the top of the head, and in about a minute after the hair was on the head, it had a beautiful crystal decoration in the hair. It was combed beautifully and parted on one side. In about half a minute after the hair was on the head, the child raised up on her feet. She was lying on her right side with her back towards me. Because of this, I was able to discern the sex of the child. But as she raised up, a beautiful robe came down over her shoulder, and I saw that it must be a girl. She looked at me, and I looked at her, and for about a quarter of a minute, we just looked at each other, smiling. Then my ambition was to get a hold of her, and I said, "Oh, you beautiful child." And as I reached as if I would embrace her, and she disappeared. And all that I saw, I stood there. That was all I saw as I stood there and wondered as I thought for a few minutes. My little boy was wondering why I stood there now, because he was down at the other end of the row, anxious to come and plant the corn. Now, I couldn't tell that story to anyone because it was so mysterious to me and such. Why should I have such a miraculous experience? I couldn't feature a human being in such a condition as to accidentally plow that little body out and see it come alive. A body of a child about 5 to 7 years old, I'd say. I couldn't tell that story to anyone until finally one day I met a dear friend of mine, Stake Patriarch Wayne H. Red of Blanding. He stopped me on the street and said, "Zeke, you have had an experience on this mesa that you won't tell. I want you to tell it to me." Well, I told it to him. Then he had me tell it to other friends, and since then I have told it in 4 temples in the United States and in many meeting houses and many socials, fast meetings, and at conference times. I wondered, and it worried me for years as to why I was allowed to see it. A common man like me, uneducated. Why was I, just a common man, allowed to see such a miraculous manifestation of God's power? One day as I was walking alone on my shoulder, going to hoe some corn, something said, stop under the shade of that tree for a few minutes and rest. This came to me, and I thought I would. So there I was, and this was given to me. And in answer to my prayer, I prayed incessantly for why I was given the privilege to see that resurrection. And I was told why. When the child was buried there, it was either in time of war with different tribes, or it was wintertime when the ground was frozen and they had no tools to dig deep graves. If it were during the time of war, they couldn't possibly take time to dig that grave. So they just planted that little body as deep as they could under the circumstances. And it was that the sorrowing mother knew that it was such a shallow grave that in her sorrow she cried out to the little group that was present, that little shallow grave, the first beast that comes along will smell her body and will dig her up and scatter her to the four winds. Her bones will be scattered all over these flats. There just happened to be a man present holding the priesthood, a Nephite or a Jaredite. I don't know which, because they had both been born in this country. I've been in their houses and know it. This man said, Sister, calm your sorrows. Whatever that little body is disturbed or uncovered, the Lord will call her up and she will live. And since that time I have taken great comfort, great cheer and consolation and satisfaction, with praise in my heart and soul, until I haven't the words to express it, that it was I that uncovered that little body.
All right, I'm gonna be honest. I got lost a little bit.
Hollywood, produce that movie.
I remember someone break it down into layman's terms for me.
So
the farmer was drinking whiskey.
My wife said, what mushrooms did he find?
Exactly. So he's plowing along, and his plow disturbs some bones, and the bones all meld together, and flesh comes over it, and it turns into a little girl who is just resurrected. He saw a little Lamanite or Jaredite, Nephite, or whoever being resurrected right in front of his face.
And his son was at the end of the row waiting for him to continue plowing, right?
Yeah, his son was on the other
That
end.
little boy should run away and say, Mom, Dad's crazy.
All right, so I texted Bill and RFM, and this was Bill's response. Tell them Bill said this faith has more mythical stories than Grimm's fairy tales. Okay. So let's see, Craig or Ruth, you guys.
Yeah, I could tell you my story. Mine's not a myth though. Mine was
personal story.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not used to swearing yet. You called it a bat something crazy.
Yeah, batshit crazy story.
Yeah, that one.
Do it.
This was just a few years ago. We had to sign up to help clean the temple here in Phoenix. And you sign up, you show up. And Nathan, if you want to put up the first slide, I made this slide with AI. Don't look at the faces too close because they don't get faces very well. But I felt like I was in a cult. We were all lined up in our church clothes, getting these white packets of clothing to change into. So we all had to change into white scrubs to clean the temple for the evening. So we're all walking around, and literally I'm thinking I love to watch documentaries of cults. I think maybe because inside somewhere I must have known, but I sure felt like I was in a cult at this time. Yeah. So the next picture, Nathan, this is what we look like. Cleaning the temple.
I can guess.
Just a bunch of clothes, white scrubs. It just was so bizarre to me the whole time as the army of white scrub people walking around, cleaning, vacuuming, dusting, doing the Lord's work. And I remember laughing about it the next day saying, wow, that was so funny. It was almost like we were a cult. But nobody said anything to me.
So you didn't like working that way, Ruth? In all the whites?
No. It just felt like we were like prisoners walking, getting our little folds of white clothes, and the rest of that story, I guess I wasn't going to tell it, but I will. I happened to have on a red bra that day.
Oops.
And I was very embarrassed, and I had to go ask the baptismal font for one of their bras because I didn't want to make a scene in the temple. So it's all crazy.
All right. Let's see. Craig, did you have something for us? Are you here just to offer emotional support?
I don't know. I've got a lot of stories, but I would say, well, so I have a temple story from not too long ago. Everything in the temple has a perfect place and is placed perfectly. Everything's symmetrical, centered, everything like that. One day I walked into the celestial room, and the flowers were not in the center of the table, and that threw me off a little bit. And so I went and talked to the temple president and said somebody's not doing their job here. And he goes, "Uh-oh, what's wrong? Come show me." And so walked back in there, and I said, "Well, somebody didn't center that right when they were cleaning and put it back. And moreover, they had moved the table about 2 inches over, so it wasn't in the center of the room, right underneath the chandelier." And so I pointed out, and he walks over there, he looks a little bit and goes, "You're right. Somebody's going to be fired." Of course, nobody was fired, but
it's a house of order.
I helped him move it back over anyway. So all was right with the world that day, at least. Yeah.
I've got one, Nathan.
I'm going to step out for a minute, but I'll be back.
Take care, Craig. All right.
All right.
What's up, Nathan?
I served my mission in Salt Lake City, and it was a tradition in our mission. Before you on the transfer, before you went home, you got to go with the temple president. Shout out President Thorderson. Honestly, I don't know if he's with us still or not, but a great man. But we got to go with him through a temple session. And after the session, someone in the temple presidency would take us missionaries going home through a behind the scenes kind of tour. And we got to go up I don't know what level we went to, but I was told by whoever was giving the tour, that's where Elder Talmadge sat when he pondered and wrote Jesus the Christ. And of course, we all went, wow. And yeah, my wife just said whiskey and cigars. They didn't mention that part, but of course, he was, partaking in things to help him ponder Jesus the Christ. But I got to see where he sat, according to that patron giving us the behind the scenes tour. And then we went up another level, and they opened a door, and lo and behold, I saw someone across the bottom real quick say something about walking across. I got to see the roof to the temple, and we're dressed in whites. And this is at the time when the conference center had just been dead. They had one or two, it was 1999 to 2001 was my mission. So the conference center was dedicated, and they had a couple of conferences during the time before I came home. But the temple door opens, and we walk across the roof. About 5 steps out and across the way, the conference center, there's people looking and pointing. And the patron said, "You all need to come back in right now real quick." And we went, "Oh, yeah, they're going to think angels are walking across the temple right now, aren't they?" And so we ran back in and shut the door. And I thought, that's probably how mythology gets turned into spiritual confirmation stories of faith. I was somebody's angel walking across the Salt Lake Temple around 2001. So I hate to break it to you, whoever saw me that day, I was the angel in white. So that's how this stuff happens. It blows my mind.
They may be listening right now. You never know.
I hope so.
But there's definitely, I know from the Truman G. Madsen talks.
Loved him.
Joseph
I
Smith,
loved him.
there's definitely tons of stories about
Yeah.
angels on the Kirtland Temple.
It was probably somebody in white just polishing something, and it turned into angels across. I was an angel, so I get it. It's not so miraculous anymore. So,
I wanted to bring Chris in real quick. This is off topic, but Chris,
Yeah.
how, in your opinion, this is off topic, but how my family was the only Mormon family in our school while we were there, right? Pretty much.
No, there were a few. There were there was somebody that sang in chorus with us.
Okay.
Slender guy, very nice.
Okay.
Tame
How-
Mormon type kid.
How were we perceived by you heathens?
No, I mean honestly, like no different. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know, man. I loved you, and all of our friends loved you, and it was a matter of like all of you. Like, sure, you had your different religion, but everybody. I don't know. Like, honestly, listening to you guys, your stories of these, mythologies and things like that, it honestly blows my mind because I mean, I was passionate about our relationship, you and me. And I loved your family, and I mean, there definitely were some people in our circle. I think about, like, I remember there was one thing where somebody had said something. It was a private conversation amongst non-Mormons that I probably were all Baptists, unfortunately, but it was one of those things where I think it maybe got back to you or Derek. I don't know. You're the more hot-headed guy, so
This is true.
no,
I vaguely remember something, but it's like, man, it's a different lifetime. But the reality was, nobody thought poorly of you or anything. I mean, because the reality is, in heaven or hell or whatever, like, I think everybody's sort of, let's say, working this out, and we're all in high school. We're all kids. We don't know jack anyway. But I don't remember anybody being like, man, Nathan and Derek and that whole family is just a bunch of psychopaths.
So I'll tell you this part. Thanks for that, Chris. Our choir teacher, who we absolutely loved, and I made a whole movie about him. But anyways, I had a chat with him, and I was like trying to convert him. And he said, "You know what? Really, just sweet old man." Now, he says, "You know what? Mormon people are about the best people I've ever met." He says, "And I would join almost out of that." He says, "I just can't buy into the Joseph Smith story." And I'm like, "What do you mean? It's so obvious." And I'm just trying to get him. But anyway,
that's the easiest thing.
That's the easiest thing. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. Let me share just a couple more. Again, I'm reminding we have 94 people in the watching there. This is for you guys. I keep posting the chat. You're welcome to come in. We have nothing. Craig's back with us. We have nothing planned. We're just spitfiring. Oh, hothead Nathan. Who is this Amy lady? Keeps calling me names.
Come in, Amy. Come in.
But let me share one more. Again, I mentioned earlier in the show that I kind of took a poll. And so here's a couple others. The two elders in Jerusalem have been identified, but were being given their free agency to run wild at this time. The U.S. Constitution will hang by a thread. The elders of Israel will rise up and save it. I see Nathan and shaking his head on that one. He's definitely heard that one. Let's see. Added by Gene. I know Gene. The Moroni on the Salt Lake Temple will come to life and trumpet the announcement of Christ's second coming. Doo-doo-doo-doo.
It's a good thing they gave him his trumpet back after it fell. That would have been awesome.
That's right. It did fall off, didn't it?
Yeah.
Let's see. The three Nephites. Oh, yeah. There's another one on the three Nephites. Let's go one more page. Yoda from Star Wars was based on Spencer W. Kimball. By a show of hands, how many people have heard that? Yep. All of us. All right. Let's see. Missionaries aren't allowed to go swimming because the devil controls the waters. We've all heard that.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't, go ahead, Ruth.
I was going to say my family was a convert and we didn't know any better. And we had the missionaries asked us if we could take them. I lived in southern New Mexico to this place called Bottomless Lakes. They wanted to go swimming. We said, yeah, sure. We took them swimming to Bottomless Lakes. And later we found out that we were helping them sin, but sorry.
Let's see. Okay, here we go. The prophet meets with Jesus in a super secret room in the Salt Lake Temple every Thursday. Where did this Thursday thing come from?
I served my mission in Salt Lake, and I got to go on every P day. We got to go to the temple if we chose to, and I was a very valiant missionary. Shout out to all you former companions watching this. We went every P day that we could, and every P day we would be in the temple, and we would at Salt Lake Temple, and we would say, this Thursday, all the brethren will be here talking to Jesus. And that's not a joke. We believe that Jesus would meet with some form of whatever brethren were there that Thursday, because at some point we heard it's on Thursday that they meet. I don't know when and who told me that, but absolutely we believed and knew that on Thursday, Jesus
I think it's because the brethren meet on
and
Thursday.
the brethren were in the Salt Lake Temple on Thursday. So yeah, absolutely. As a Salt Lake City missionary, we knew that. Yeah, we knew that.
Hey, Nathan, my dad was just here visiting, and he's, how old's my dad? 78, 79 years old. And every now and then we have conversations about things that I found out about the church. And I asked him, I said, Dad, do you think that the prophets and the apostles have seen Christ and talked with Christ? And he looked at me like, yeah, of course they do.
Yeah.
And I said, where? And he said, well, in the temple. I said, okay, where? And he said, well, I think the Salt Lake Temple in the Holy of Holies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it's something we all have heard. I mean, they don't teach it in Sunday school, but somehow we all hear it and know it.
Yeah.
And I told him, well, I think they're backtracking that a little. They're saying they haven't done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. There's quotes out now that, they're. Let's try another page here. The Smithsonian regards the Book of Mormon as a useful archaeological tool. That's supposed to be the myth. I think.
Wait, that's not true.
Who's laughing? All right.
Everyone's laughing. If you ask the Smithsonian, they have a letter that they'll send you saying that they do not consider the Book of Mormon to be useful at all for archaeology. So
They get asked that a lot, right?
Yeah.
Temple ceremony is like masonry because they both came from the rituals of Solomon's temple. That's supposed to be the myth. I don't know if I get that. Okay, there will come a time when only Mormon women will be willing to have children. Joseph Smith said that. I remember that one. Manti Temple has a pedestal on the steeple because Moroni will appear there in person sometime. Is that true?
I haven't heard that one.
Let's see. A janitor. Oh, we've all heard the janitor in the temple stories. Yeah. Let's try another one. We're on a roll. Aliens are more advanced than us because they have had the priesthood longer.
Oh,
Masterpiece like that one. What do you got, Ruth?
It just reminded me we were talking at dinner that tell me if you guys believe this or heard this, that our earth was the earth that was the most righteous, and that's why Christ came to our earth and was sacrificed on our earth. But there are other worlds that are populated with humans as well, but they didn't get Christ. But his atonement still went for them.
I've definitely heard that.
That's doctrine.
That's doctrine?
That's doctrine. But
Okay.
except I've heard it that more that this earth is the one most wicked, the only one who would sacrifice Jesus.
Oh,
That's what I've heard. Porter our oldest just said,
He's listening over there. So
He just said, "Boy, if our world was the most righteous, that doesn't bode well for the other worlds."
No.
That's much.
but it's a doctrine that the Jesus' sacrifice covers the atonement for
Yes.
many other worlds. It's an infinite
Yep.
atonement.
Yep.
I've found that in church manuals.
Yeah, that's what this Hellfire guy says. That he had that we were the only one that would do it. So, let's see. Where was I at? Stranded missionaries put water in the gas tank and miraculously turned it to fuel. What isn't? Well, no. Okay. In order to pass the pearly gates, you have to be judged by Joseph Smith as well. I've heard that one.
That's doctrine.
That's
That
doctrine.
is doctrine.
Oh, masterpiece. All right. Some missionaries at the MTC decided to give up, but as he was running away, their spiritual eyes saw an army of angels. We've all heard the stories about the Nephite warriors guarding the MTC, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I had a
Gene.
sister. I had a sister missionary in our mission who said she swore that they knocked on her door at night, and the man behind who opened the door shut the door in fear. And the next day on the news, he was arrested for being a murderer, and she felt protected because behind her were probably a couple of buff Nephites telling him to shut the door and don't murder them. Yes, a sister missionary in my mission told that story in a zone conference. And I thought, wow, that's miraculous. Can't verify it though.
Yeah. Well, that's what tonight's all about. This is our one chance to just get out all the unverifiable hubbub. So I'm welcoming some folks here. I see Gene has joined us. Amy says we hit 100. Well, I sent the invite, like I said, to Bill.
Come on, Bill, RFM. What are you, cowards? Come on.
Maybe they don't know any stories.
Oh yeah, they know all the stories. All right, let me keep going, and we'll buy ourselves some time. We may get a surprise here. Women
Okay, Nathan,
were.
What about dinosaur bones? My dad used to always tell me that the dinosaur bones. When I would ask him, well, how do if the Earth is only a few thousand years old, how about all these millions of year old dinosaur bones? And he would tell me that because our world was made from other worlds, that those were probably animals on other planets previously before our world was made.
I
Has
think
anybody heard that?
we've all heard that. I mean,
Good. I'm not the only one.
It was
Yep.
there was two options. It was either we took them from other worlds and that's why they're here, or the carbon dating is wrong.
Yes, I heard that
Either-
too.
Yeah.
Well, if we've all heard it, it's true. So don't worry about it. It's true. We've all heard it. It's true.
I have a book from David O. McKay who talks about dinosaur bones found in Utah and how they were thousands of years old.
Okay. Thousands.
Yeah.
How many thousands?
Not
very
more than
many.
6.
Okay. I know that Masterpiece has a ton of stuff, and we may end up making a episode of just some of that, but let me keep going just a little bit more. We're up to 102 people, so we can't quit now. Let's see.
I've got a quick story.
Oh, let's hear it, Craig.
So this goes in the category of times when people thought a priesthood blessing was going to save them rather than medical attention.
Okay. Now, speaking as someone who is married to a doctor, go ahead.
Yeah. So on my mission, one of the places we lived was a pretty rough area of town. We lived in an upstairs apartment. And one night we heard a bunch of ruckus outside. We look out the window. There's a bunch of people getting into a fight of some sort. We look out the side window and we see a bunch of people coming with some kind of weapons and stuff. And one of the guys, I guess, had a knife and stabbed another guy, and right at the bottom of our stairs. So if you were to open our front door, you would go straight down the stairs, and the the guy was right there at the bottom, and one of the missionaries that lived with us said, "Oh, we need to go give him a blessing right now." I was like, "Are you stupid, dude? There's people out there fighting. Just kill the guy at the bottom of the stairs, and you want to run down there and give him a blessing instead of calling 911." I'm like, that is. I was like, "Come on, man!" But
Yeah.
so the police did end up coming. Somebody else had already called, and we didn't go out there. Of course, I wasn't going out there. Yeah, the police ended up coming. The guy I guess ended up dying before the ambulance could get there and stuff.
You didn't have enough faith to go down there and give him a blessing. You should have saved your faith.
I guess I didn't. Well, and I'm still here today, so
Yes.
Let me say,
All right.
Chalk
let
it
me
up
say
to
one
that.
thing. Anybody who doesn't know Craig, so Craig, you may not remember me. I'm living over here close to
I do.
Knoxville.
I remember you.
Okay,
Yes.
I've gotten uglier over time, but I still look the same. Okay. Hey, if you need someone to play a mandolin or basically any instrument, that's the guy right there. He's pulling off his best Tommy Lee, in my opinion. I love Motley Crue.
Tommy.
He's pulling off his best Tommy Lee impersonation tonight. So, Craig, you're looking good, bro.
All right. Well, thank you.
Hopefully you guys will get a whole episode with Craig. I've been talking to him about doing some interviews. So
Hope so.
let me go through another couple here. A member kid was saved by an angel while they were at the temple. Thousands of permutations of this. President Nelson was about to wreck in a fiery downward spiral and kept perfectly calm. We all know that story. An apostle came to your mission and spiritually discerned which missionaries were in a secret combination and sent them home. Anybody ever heard that? Something like
I
that?
have.
That
Yes.
happened in my mission. Yep.
Okay. Let's see
That
here.
secret combination of missionaries all had the same kind of tie, is what the story I've heard is.
Oh, I have heard something.
Yep.
Steeple height is an important part of our religion.
Always has been.
Oh, I can't see the bottom. What? Brigham Young, I can't see that for some reason.
We at dinner, my son's fiance said, "Oh, I know one that's a myth that the Garden of Eden was in Missouri." And I said, "That's doctrine. That's not myth."
Whoever this hellfire is says that I blessed a woman on my mission to pass in peace and return to God. Oh, I thought he was saying he blessed him, but then he said she passed 2 hours later. So yeah, I didn't know I thought he was going to, anyway.
I did that too. We gave a blessing to a woman to pass in peace, and an hour later she passed. So obviously, God granted we killed her, and that's, yeah.
Okay.
I can read that bottom one. It says Brigham Young designed wide roads in Salt Lake City because he foretold the invention of cars.
Oh, that's right. I've heard that. Salt Lake does have really wide roads, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So does Montpelier. We have like these 60 or 70-foot wide roads in town, some places, and it's just we have like 2,500 people here, and we got a couple of these really huge roads that you're just
but isn't a wagon just as wide as a car?
yeah.
All right, I've got to mention this one. This is my son right here, Hiram Hinckley. When he was born, his feet were all jacked up. They were like all turned a weird direction. And me and my wife, we were like, well, at least he's got 10 toes, I mean, that's good. And he's got these jacked up feet. Well, the doctor turns to us and says, you guys know that he's got club foot or whatever it's called, right? And we're like, no. And of course, I had given him a blessing in the first few minutes of his being born. We reached our hands inside this little incubator thing because he was early. Anyways, most of our family would still say, yeah, you cured him from his feet. But as soon as the doctor walked out of the room, the nurse looked to us and said, it's just positional. Meaning he was he was cramped in there. And she says, he'll be fine. It's just positional. And I'm like, and the doctor was like, oh yeah, he's got a club foot. You know, so that's a good one. Thanks, Hiram, for sharing that.
I'm glad you're okay, Hiram.
Yeah. And the rest of the story is this kid is the most athletic kid you'll ever meet, can ball up anybody, the weightlifters. And
Priesthood power is true. So you've
That's right.
him.
That's right.
of course, the elevator space and the temple. What else did I see?
Okay, I don't know any stories about it, but what if we were talking about the dusting of your feet, the dusting of your shoes?
I have a story about that.
Yeah?
I don't know where this came from. Someone, I heard that, okay, Nathan, you might know this. I heard that missionaries came to La Follette a long time ago. He's shaking his head. And that they had something happened. Either they had some physical attack or some sort of bad experience, and they dusted their feet off. Which there's a scriptural reference. Masterpiece probably knows exactly where that's at. But anyways, they dusted their feet off. In other words, they washed their hands of that area, and it stayed closed for a long time until whoever decided that it was time to lift the curse of La Follette.
I don't know. It's still kind of cursed today. There's a little branch up there struggling, but the people who are there are salt of the earth, but not much growth.
Yeah.
My husband said it was you click your heels together like Dorothy.
I'm trying to see if I missed anything in the chat. We got 112 people on with us. Let me post the invite again. Anyone is welcome to come in. You don't have to show your face. If it looks anything like Craig Sobeys, you probably wouldn't want to.
Why have I showed my face all this time if I didn't have to?
All right. I have a couple more little slides here. We'll go ahead and jump into those. All right, we did that one. Let's see. Steeple height, we did that one. Four-toed cars, Nephite. Tithing is fire insurance. Well, our house burnt down, but you chose your parents before you were born. Your kids also chose you. Chris, does that jive with your beliefs? Just curious, because that's kind of Mormon, right? We chose our family, or
that's
like
Saturday's
that.
Warrior, man. That's right there.
Does that jive with Baptist
I don't
beliefs?
know nothing about that. You know, that's not
that's not really something y'all talk about. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a good one. Satan comes out at midnight. What time is it? Oh, it's 10:38. We're good. So that's why we need to go home from steak dances before
11:30, so you can be home by 12.
Yeah, Amy said that's why it's still a branch in La Follette. Okay, let's see. I can't see the bottom. It's people with special needs, probably.
That's all.
They're perfect. That's
yeah.
the theory, right? Is that they're going straight to the celestial kingdom.
It
They don't need to
depends on
be
which
tested.
prophet you ask. So I think Harold B. Lee said if you had mental disabilities, it was because you were a sinner in the premortal existence. But it changed later on, and so now you're protected. So if you've got mental handicaps, then it's a protection from Satan, so he can't tempt you. So it depends on which area you go to.
Gene just joined us. He was in the queue, and my screen didn't tell me. Welcome, Gene.
Hi.
So we're just chatting about different myths or different crazy stories. Gene runs another podcast. You want to tell them where you're at, Gene?
Yeah, Ladder Daily Digest. So you could see me in the chat on the side, and so people always say hi, Gene, after I say that, or they say hi, LDD or whatever.
Who do you have with you, Gene?
So I have, what's your name? Miranda.
Oh, fantastic.
She is my third grandchild.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That we know of.
Well, you're welcome to jump in at any time, Gene, and anyone else that would like to join in. I will go ahead and read one more screen here. Here we go. Satan comes out. We got that one. There was the special needs. Women who bear more than 6 children go straight to the celestial kingdom. I've never heard that one.
I was so close.
I think that's doctrine.
Two.
Don't give up now, Ruth. You're almost there.
I'm too old.
Let's see. Brigham Young caused a lightning bolt to strike the St. George Temple spire because he wasn't happy about the height. Anyone hear that one?
Yeah, he complained about it, and I think after the lightning hit, they rebuilt it the spire a little bit higher. So that's a little bit of history there.
Okay. There's another garment story. Oh, here's a missionaries left garments at the laundromat. Missionaries asked for the return, then laundromat burned. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we really can tell some stories in this church.
The end
All
of
right.
that story is, and then the missionaries got sent home for burning down the laundromat.
Have you heard it, or are you making that up?
No, I'm making it
Okay.
up.
Nathan, that happened in La Follette. I heard that the laundromat burned in La Follette back in the 70s, and I thought, oh wow, that's amazing. That's true. Yeah,
You
Really?
talk
happened
about
in La Follette. Yeah.
Okay.
you talk about Satan controlling the water, so missionaries can't swim, and yet all the baptisms are performed in water.
Yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned that one. I think we mentioned it. I think you had added it when I put this poll out. Let's see. Lamanites have been called to live in Missouri in preparation for the second coming. Yeah, I don't know about that, but we don't know who they are anymore.
Didn't Wendy Nelson say that many are gathering even now? Didn't she talk about that in the last couple of
Just
years?
recently.
Yeah, it's happening right now. If you don't know about it, then you're just not in the club. So it's happening
All
right
right.
now.
We've got to mention this one from the chat. Yes, there have been quotes and lots of different people, including prophets, who have said, "Isn't it great that they seem to be getting lighter and lighter with each generation?"
That's so sad.
It's sad and gross, but
That
it
is
has
sad.
been said.
Yeah.
All right. Let me see. Don't wipe dust from your shoes in front of an investigator's home, or it will be destroyed.
Yep.
Some revelation in the 80s that said it was more important for mothers to be home with their children than it was for Noah to build the ark. Let me go one more here. There are some who can control the weather if they are righteous enough and if it is needed for the righteous purpose. Okay. Workers, there's another laundromat one. There will be no rainbows the year that Jesus comes again. I've heard that my whole life. Somebody set us straight. Masterpiece probably knows all about that. That's a Joseph Smith quote, I think, right?
The story of Noah, the God gave the rainbow as a covenant that he wouldn't flood the earth again. But I don't know about the rainbows coming again. That no rainbows.
Yeah. Joseph had said that there would not be a rainbow. Like if you see a rainbow, that means Christ won't come for the next year.
Yeah, yeah.
So you have a year. Every time you see a rainbow, you're like, boom, I got a year.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, Songs says she was never told about people becoming whiter. I wonder why. Okay, let's see here. There'll be no rainbows. Yeah, the Mormons killed people from Arkansas at Mountain Meadows, mistakenly claiming retaliation for the Hans Mill massacre in Missouri. Yeah, that's a whole nother episode right there. I'll bring some smart people on and we'll talk about that. But I will say that happened on September 11th.
Yep.
And so when you hear of someone saying, "Oh, I can't believe the terrible thing that happened on September 11th," yeah, there was at least 2.
I just wrote a blog about it. It was one of the worst things that I found out about leaving the church.
I'm going to put this out there right now for anybody in the future to watch this. I don't remember her name. I would have to dig through my missionary journals to find it, but I was unfortunately part of a missionary companionship who helped convince and convert and baptize a female who was part of the Ute tribe of the Indian Ute tribe heritage to the Mormon church. And her one hang up before getting baptized was her problem with the Meadows massacre. And I don't remember what I found at the time to convince her, but we got her convinced to overlook the tragedy of the Meadows massacre to get baptized. And to this day, I don't remember her name, and I really have a lot of sad regret over the fact that I was a part of helping a literal Ute descendant get baptized to that. And so if she ever sees us someday, I'm so sorry. That's disgusting. It's awful. Yeah.
All right. Let's see if we had any other. Let's see. Yeah. On a lighter note, that we will all get our own planet. You get a planet. You get a planet. In my best Oprah voice. That the wine from Jesus' time was different than wine today. That it was grape juice. That's another myth. There's the disabilities. There's some more Nephite soldiers.
Hey, Nathan, did you or anybody on the panel ever have a protection story from your mission? I remember walking down the most dangerous street in Salt Lake. Now, stop your laughter. The most dangerous street in Salt Lake was probably really dangerous, but we were told Harvey Street was the most dangerous street, and it was in my area. And me and my companion walked down it a couple of times, and nothing happened to us. So,
that's impressive.
Yeah. Harvey Street, back in the day, hardcore. How about the rest of you? Any protection stories from your mission?
Well, I do have one. I was going to share this maybe next week, but heck, I'll do it twice. But I had a gun pulled on me twice on my mission. So the first time we were knocking doors way too early. And we were just like, I don't know, let's just knock doors. And we knock, and this girl comes, and she was a cute girl. And we're like, hi, we're missionaries. And we just kind of kept pushing for her to. And her boyfriend stepped in from behind the door with a shotgun. And he said, now let me introduce myself. You guys need to get out of here. And then I was about to point down at his whitey tighties and say, you already are, buddy. But that was one. The other one, we were talking to a lady, less active, trying to get her to come back. Had never met her before. And her son was real fidgety and real erratic. Is that the right word? Anyways, he goes close to another word. He goes out to the car, and she says, "Run, elders! He's getting a gun!" And we're like, "What?" And so we just took off, and all I knew was I had to outrun my companion. But that was the two times. I guess I never saw it the second time. But anyways, good stuff. Anyone
Nathan,
else?
You did win, Nathan. You did win some sort of race in school back in the day. So you weren't going to be the last one. You weren't going to be the first one shot, right?
Oh, you just reminded me of something. All right, elementary school, Bricky Elementary. I was the only Mormon boy, elementary school, 4th grade. And another girl, Becky, was the only Mormon girl. And they had the Bricky Marathon, which was 2 times around the whole property. I won the Bricky Marathon for the boys, and she won the Bricky Marathon for the girls. And I remember thinking, that's because we live the word of wisdom and we don't smoke.
Run and not be weary.
You know how them 3rd and 4th graders will smoke, and that'll just oh yeah.
Well, hey Nathan, I've got something interesting to share with you.
What you got?
It might be a little embarrassing for you.
Oh no.
Do it.
But I have a letter that you wrote me while you were on your mission.
Ah!
I have many letters right here, but I just kind of was glancing through some of these, and I don't know. I don't know that this is neither here nor there. I don't know how interesting it is to anyone, you know, of your audience, but you know, this is a letter dated May 1st, 2000. You've got a little sticker here that says Tango Fe in Jesus, or Jesus, I believe that would be the pronunciation. And says, Joe boy, what's up, bro? We'll skip past some of this stuff.
Hit the highlights. What was I trying to do?
Here's the highlights. I think this is interesting, is all I can say. So here you say, do you still have contact with the missionaries, you know, local missionaries here in East Tennessee that I was sort of visiting with, talking with, trying to get perspective so I knew how to speak with you? Of course, you're thinking, you know, this guy's, he's about to become Mormon while I'm on my mission. You know, I about converted him. Yeah. So you say the following. You say, you still have contact with the missionaries. How about questions or doubts? Know that now that I'm on the subject, I'll ask you one question, and I think it's one of the most important. Mm-hmm. What do you feel about the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith? I imagine you've thought a little about it. We had great experiences recently. We go into a house, share the experience and our testimonies, and we kneel with the families and pray so they will obtain a personal answer from God. It's true. Do it. Not to mention all the proof. I've thought a lot about you. Can't wait to see you. Blah, blah, blah. Not to mention all the proof.
Well, let me just say this, and I think everyone on the screen will probably agree that when I believed, I believed. I'm all in. When I'm in, I'm all in, and I have been all in. That's me.
Yep.
Hey, you know what? When I saw the Book of Mormon musical in 2015 in San Francisco, and they talked about, and you know, we believe that you know, Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden was in Missouri, right? And that made me think for the first, because I knew that, but it was funny because everybody laughed, was that I thought, well, if the Garden of Eden was in Missouri, that probably meant Noah's Ark lifted off from Central North America somewhere, and just wound up in the Middle East, right? In Mount Ararat. But at no time during my prior 50 years of Sunday school did I ever think anything different than Noah left from the Middle East somewhere and just happened to land in the Middle East again, because, you know, the Bible basically says that, right? And so it took, you know, the Book of Mormon musical for me to think about how that didn't make any sense, right?
I had heard that we're getting away. Someone was saying the other day that we're getting away from that claim anymore, that's where the Garden of Eden is. So I'll have to look into that a little bit more. All right.
I've got a quick story about about Nathan Hinckley.
Okay.
He's worried now.
I'm worried.
So when Nathan was a bishop and when I was his counselor, there would be many Sundays we'd get to church early for bishopric meeting, and he would say, "Hey, have you seen did you check the weather app? It looks like this river's going to be running today. You want to go with me?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know." He points out to the parking lot. I've already got the double kayak on the top of the car. And so after sacrament meeting, we'd sneak out the back door, go change out of our suits and ties, and drive a couple hours and go kayaking.
This is true.
Hey Craig, Nathan has told you that the first thing that we did when he got back from his mission I taught him how to roll a kayak, and I took him out on, I don't know, a Coe class 3, class 4, and he almost died that day, actually.
Yeah, he tried to teach me several times how to roll a kayak in the pool and stuff. I never got it, but he took me out there on a double kayak on some doozies of rivers and flipped over, lost paddles and all kinds of stuff.
All right, I'm going to go through a couple more of these, and then we'll see what else we have. So, but you guys do know I loved kayaking and still do. But all right, here we go. So the temple doors wouldn't open, slam shut if you were unworthy. Never heard that one. Time in heaven differs from earth, explaining why the earth is billions of years old. Yep, I've heard the whole reckoning of time is different. See a lot of head shaking there. A secret call will prompt those with a 2-year food supply to live safely in hidden tent cities before the second coming. Interestingly,
we're still sleeping on food storage, Nathan. Still.
Really? Oh, wow.
We've never, in our marriage, 20-some years of marriage, never had a bed frame. We have always slept on our boxes of food storage.
No, that's all in. That's all in right there.
If I wasn't so mad about the wasted money, I would have thrown it away.
Yep.
I didn't understand. Well, I hope you sleep good tonight on your potato pearls.
Your apple slices.
If you
the
do have
thing is really big in the prepper community, so there's a lot of like the Chad Daybell.
That's who I was thinking of.
Foods, they were really big on getting ready for this tent city, and then having a hand cart that you have to walk all the way back to Missouri with.
If you all have ever seen the book As a Thief in the Night, that was one that my brother-in-law loved and let me borrow it. I think I still have it somewhere, but it is full of all of these kinds of things that we're talking about. A lot of this prepper stuff, and in the last days that all these prophecies would happen. And I took that stuff, it's written, the prophet said it, this is definitely going to happen. It's some crazy stuff.
Nathan, on my mission, I heard about it from somebody in the Salt Lake Valley there, and I went to back. I don't think Seagull Book is in business anymore. I heard that Deseret bought them out, but when I was on my mission, Seagull Book was a thing, and we on our P Day would go to the temple, and then Seagull Book and Deseret Book, and then the DI Industries to look for cool ties. And I got a lot of cool ties on my mission. But we went to Seagull Book, and I said, As a Thief in the Night is a book I've heard about. And the guy literally said, hold on a minute, follow me. I'm not joking. He hushed me into a back room with my companion and pulled it off a back shelf and said, here, don't tell anybody. And I was like, what? And he said, this is a controversial book. And I said, okay, can I have 2? And I bought 2. And I brought one home, brought both of them home. After I got home from my mission, I gave one to my father-in-law. And I was like, this is such a controversial book. And bless his heart, to this day, he's like, yes, this book is preparing us for the second coming. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I was such a buffoon. But yeah, Nathan, on my mission, I was hushed into a back room and told, this is controversial, hush. And I bought 2. Yeah.
We read it, studied it as a couple.
Yeah,
highlighted it.
We've got it in a bin in our shed right now. I hope it's worth something someday. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff in that book.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Not too long ago in our ward, before I was bishop, we had someone give a talk about food storage and preparing, and basically shamed everybody in the ward that wasn't growing everything from scratch and making everything from scratch and organically. I just kind of sat there with just kind of put my head down. My wife and I were just like, there's this is not accurate at all.
Awkward.
Yeah. But, when's the last time food storage has even been mentioned?
Bednar, during COVID, he said, my wife and I came across, he gave a talk about it right around COVID, where he kind of said, hey, keep doing it, but we're not going to preach it. Yeah, Bednar was the last one I remember, 4 years ago. So, but they're definitely not doing it like they used to.
No, definitely not.
But we're
you got to save your money so you can go on 2 missions when you're old.
Right.
We'll sell our food storage and go do that then.
So I know that Masterpiece has a lot of stuff to share, and I feel like we might want to roll into a. Are there any of the highlights you want to share now, Masterpiece, or do you want to do a full episode of some of the stuff you've found?
Let's just do one real quick. So there's this great book called Temples of the Most High. It's by Lundwall. If you've heard of John Lundwall, he'll been on a lot of podcasts, great on ancient American mythology and everything. He's got some great information there. But this was written by his grandfather, I think. But this guy collected a lot of really fun stories. And so here is one that was told by Apostle Rudger Clausen. He was the president of the cult apostles. And he tells the story of the Apostle Mariner W. Merrill, who was the Logan Temple president. And this is the story where Satan appears to him at the temple. So this is the temple president relating this story, and who's also an apostle. So Merrill is sitting in his office one morning, he said, when he noticed from the window a company of people coming up the hill to the temple. As they entered the temple grounds, they presented rather a strange appearance, not only in dress, but in their mode of travel. Some were riding on horses, others were in conveyances, still others were afoot. He wondered who they could be, as he was not looking for a company of such size that particular morning. They dismounted from their horses, stepped down from their conveyances, put their animals under their shade, and walked about complacently as if they had a perfect right to be there. A little later, a person unknown to Brother Merrill entered the room. So this is Brother Merrill in his president's office in the temple. This person walks in. Brother Merrill said to him, "Who are you, and who are these people who have come up and taken possession of the temple grounds unannounced?" He answered and said, "I am Satan, and these are my people." So Satan just walked into the temple without any problems. So I don't know what that's going on there. So Brother Merrill then said, "What do you want? And why have you come here?" Satan replied, "I don't like the work that is going on in this temple and feel that it should be discontinued. Will you stop it?" Brother Merrill answered and said emphatically, "No, we will not stop it. The work must go on." "Well, since you refuse to stop it, I will tell you what I propose to do." The adversary said, "I will take these people, my followers, and distribute them throughout this temple district. I will instruct them to whisper in the ears of people, persuading them not to go to the temple, and thus bring about a cessation of your temple work." And then Satan withdrew. President Merrill, commenting on the strange interview with the evil one, said that for quite a period of time the spirit of indifference to temple work seemed to take possession of the people, and very few people came to the house of the Lord. The presumption was that Satan had carried out his threat, which caused a temporary lull in the temple work. It is not to be wondered that Satan, who is the enemy of all righteousness, is displeased with temple work.
You posted that one on Facebook not too long ago, I think, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I remember that. That's wild. Just so wild that we have so many stories. Like, what are we supposed to make of this? Like, I don't want to say people are lying.
Go get her to bed. I'll talk.
So what's left? Like, they're just imagining this stuff?
It's amazing.
I think I'm picking this story up. The current leaders will tell us not to spread these faith-promoting rumors, but this one's spread by the apostles. The one by Orson Pratt with the 3 Nephites visiting the Indians, spread by the apostles. Yeah. So they're the biggest instigators. Nelson with his airplane death spiral thing, and his being shot at the or pulled the gun misfiring
in South Africa.
South Africa and Mozambique robbery. they're making their own faith promoting rumors that are just completely BS. But yeah, they're sharing. Then you have Paul H. Dunn, who had a whole series of fake stories that he told. Well,
Yeah, I've been
Did you guys
wanting
talk
to.
about the fate of the persecutors of Joseph Smith yet?
not yet, but that's
Got the
that's
book.
written by the
I've
same
got the
guy.
book.
That's written by the Lundwall as well. So
Maven
he's got a
actually
whole
went.
collection of all of these.
Maven actually went on Mormon Book Reviews, and she reviewed the stories in the book about how fake they are, about how there's almost no truth to any of what the persecutors of Joseph Smith went through. They mostly just lived normal lives. But
So,
this book wanted to
So basically, there was supposedly a prophecy that the people that killed Joseph would live horrible lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so people have went and found out, well, actually they had normal lives.
That's right. So Maven did a whole episode. And in the private chat, I don't know if you guys could see, but I did a link if you wanted to put that link in the chat.
Oh,
People
okay,
can
yeah.
go check Maven out after this show's over.
Yeah.
I think Masterpiece just said something that made me think the blog that I wrote recently about the planets. I feel like they tell us it's not doctrine. So the FAQ now on LDS.org tells us that we don't get a planet and that it's not doctrine. But then we still have conference talks saying, think celestial, think about what your body's going to be like in the next world. Think about your creations in the next world. So they'll tell us on one hand that it's not doctrine. So on the other hand, they tell us these stories. So
yep.
I just don't know who to believe anymore or what to believe.
Yeah.
Dangle the carrot.
Yes.
Yeah. Keep them hoping
Confused?
for something in the future. Yeah. Or confused like I am right now.
Hey, Masterpiece. I discovered Paul H. Dunn in my second area on my mission. I had someone give me some tapes back when you could listen to tapes on a cassette player. I was listening and I thought, oh my gosh, these stories are awesome. And Salt Lake City missionaries were asked to speak a lot when I was on my mission. So I got good at preparing, basically plagiarizing other people's quotes and poems and putting them together in a form that was presentable. And I got pretty good at that. And I remember when I discovered Paul H. Dunn, I presented some talk in a sacrament meeting, and it was this quote and that quote and that quote, Paul H. Dunn. And I, to this day, remember some members in that ward kind of looking at me like, and I had no idea that, he's persona non grata. This is awkward until I, years later, home from a mission, went, his stories weren't hitting so well that Sunday. But I thought, these are awesome. Awkward. Yeah, that was awkward.
So I haven't looked into, I know that Paul H. Dunn was basically busted with a lot of lies, but I haven't looked into what specifically went down. So I need to do that.
So as one example, there's so Packer, the nephew of Boyd K. Packer, is a
Lynn Packer.
Lynn Packer, yeah, he's a investigative journalist, and he broke the story on all these fake stories that Paul H. Dunn was doing. So he brought Paul H. Dunn down single-handedly. But there was a story that Dunn told. He's in World War II, and he's got his best friend that they're on a beach and they're under fire, and his friend gets shot, and he's like dying in his arms and saying, Packer or Dunn, when you get back, make sure you teach the youth about Christ and make sure they have a solid testimony and they know this stuff. So he took that charge from his friend's dying words. And then Packer went to Missouri and found him alive and well and still living his life in there. And so that's another one of those fun things that Dunn was just hamming up all these crazy stories. And
I remember my dad saying that one of the guys that Dunn said died in his arms later reached out to the church and said, I'm still alive. And that was when the church said, hey, Paul, what are these stories you're telling? So it was a very awkward thing for him. And I hate that for him. The beautiful, awesome faith promoting stories, but just not quite factual or true, which is par for the course in Mormonism. So,
and he told the best stories, and you'd always feel the test of the Spirit testify that these were true, and then you find out, oh, they're just nice stories, and that feeling was not what I thought it was.
That's right. With the second anointing, you can lie for the Lord.
That's the problem when someone has to grapple with the fact that they felt the Spirit on a story that wasn't true. So I guess that's another, thing to consider is that possible or what? I was just thinking, someone had mentioned about offering your hand to the angel. We get that from Joseph, and let's see, if you offer your hand and it's a true angel, they won't try to touch it, but they'll still deliver their message.
If they're a resurrected being, they'll reach out and shake your hand. If they're just a spirit coming to send you a message, then they won't offer to shake your hand. But if they're an evil spirit, they'll try to offer to shake your hand, but your hand will go right through.
Yeah.
I was always so worried that I was so dumb I couldn't understand what I was shaking in the moment. I think I screwed up. I couldn't keep it straight.
That's right. Plus, I always thought, with the first vision, Joseph never asks God and Jesus to shake their hands. So how do we know that they weren't Satan?
Then false.
But then in the temple, you have Peter, James, and John appear to Adam and then shake his hand with the sign. So don't ask me how that works.
So have you guys heard the one with President Nelson and the situation in a Knoxville or in a Tennessee? I think it was Knoxville State.
The red hat.
Yep.
Yeah, the lady with the red hat. Basically, turns out that I'll butcher the story right now, but turns out the story is told that she felt, or she had a dream that he would ask her how many people have come into the church from your baptism. So she shows up to conference already prepared with the notes. That's the story. And then turns out that he had baptized her. President Nelson had baptized her, 30, 40 or more years ago. And that turns out he had called her out of the crowd, like, you stand up, come up here. Who baptized you? She said, well, you did. And he said, oh, really? Well, how many people came into the church from you? And she says, well, 80, and I knew that you was going to ask me this because I had a dream. This whole thing. Anyway, the whole story has been absolutely debunked by the lady herself.
By the family.
She called up Deseret Book and said, do not print this story. I am the lady. That did not happen.
Yeah.
And Deseret Book had put it out in anticipating the book release. And so, yeah, we get this kind of crap all the time, and it might strengthen somebody's testimony, but it tears some of ours apart when we're like, what was that?
Yeah.
So, we've been on here for an hour and 43 minutes. I can go all night. This is actually really fun. I know Masterpiece could go for another 3 hours, but
I do have one more I want to share.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked about the mission president, like the prophet showing up and recognizing that certain missionaries were not valid, were not moral. So there's like a spirit of discernment stories. So this is by Matthias Cowley, who's another apostle. On one of the 3 days during which the dedicatory services at the Logan Temple were held, President John Taylor and President Charles O. Card stood up at the top of the stairs leading to the assembly room as the people were surging up the steps to get to the assembly room. President Taylor cited a woman in the crowd whom he did not know, but indicated her to President Card and said, "Don't let that woman come into the assembly. She is not worthy." Brother Card was greatly surprised and said, "Why not?" President Taylor said, "I know not, but the Spirit of God said she is not worthy." And so Brother Card went down the steps and met the woman and told her that she would have to go back. Brother Card said to President Taylor she couldn't pass the doorkeeper without a recommend. But President Taylor replied, "That matters not. She is not worthy." She did not raise much opposition when confronted by Brother Card when she showed her ticket of admission. Brother Card turned her back, and later on he went to see her at home, and he asked her how she had gotten her recommend to go to the temple. And she said there was a man in the ward who was not worthy of a recommend, but the bishop gave him one, thinking it would make him feel glad to attend the dedicatory services and also help him renew his religious duties. This woman happened to meet the man on the street, and he asked her how she would like to go to the dedication of the temple. She said she would like to, but could not get a recommend. He said, "I have a recommend, and I will give it to you for $1. And so she got her recommend by paying this amount. I wonder if you could sell your tokens and signs for this too, but I haven't found.
I mean, I had to pay way more than that for my recommend.
So I was at the dedication of the Loken Temple, but did not hear this. But it was told to me afterwards. The following statement was uttered later by President Taylor to Brother Card and others: "Brethren, you may deceive the bishop, and you may deceive the presidents of the stake, and you may deceive the general authorities of the church, but you cannot deceive the Lord Jesus Christ nor the Holy Ghost. You know yourselves better than anybody else, and if there is anything wrong in you, now is the time to repent and make yourselves square with the Lord. And if you do not repent, the time will come when you will be humbled, and the higher up you get, the greater will be your fall."
I think the lesson to be learned from this episode is that if testimonies are so weak that you have to lie to them to keep a testimony up, and you have to keep truthful history away, what is the value of a testimony?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this has been great. It's been fun. It's been just a bunch of nonsense. I don't know that there's anyone that's quite like the Mormon myths. I mean, we can really just do a Duesenberg. And I don't know why it is. Maybe because we're not, what are we, only 200 and something years old, so we've got records back from the beginning, and people wrote down, and I don't know, it's a mess. But the Mormon myths have been around forever. I guess they always will. I'd like to do this again in the near future, just talking more about our personal experiences, just crazy things that we've seen. And that was actually my original idea. What you got, Nathan?
You've got 10 years of a window before, I don't mean to mock, but I think Elder Stevenson said the Salt Lake's going to host the Winter Olympics in about 10 years. So there's a 10-year window where we know Christ won't come again, because Elder Stephen, he said it in General Conference. So you got 10 years before, you can do several more episodes before the end is near. And I don't mean to mock, but he said it. So 10 years, Nathan, to keep doing this.
Yeah. Well, my intention definitely was not to mock. However, I don't have a problem mocking when it's just myths. It's silliness, right?
Fun.
I have a threshold, and I'm not going to go out here talking about certain things. I respect people that are of the church. I have lots of friends, lots of family that are people. I have best friend bishops who are currently serving and with us right now. So I have a lot of respect. But when you get into this kind of thing, the myths and the just, it is quite funny. So,
Hey, Nathan, can I give one more thought?
Oh, please do. And we don't have to go, but yeah.
It's not a myth, but it's the book that I sent you the other night. I started reading a new book, Gospel Doctrine by Joseph F. Smith. And the very first paragraph had me boiling already, but I think it's an interesting juxtaposition to what we did tonight. He says, "Our hope of salvation must be founded upon truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. For we cannot build upon error and ascend into the courts of eternal truth and enjoy the glory and exaltation of the kingdom of God. That cannot be done."
Yeah. That's a good way to wrap it up. I think sometimes because of our leaders, they're somewhere giving a talk every week, and it's like just the need for more material. They might slip into some of these things, these myths. Our 2 conferences every year, I think we might. But just like Ruth said, we just need to speak the truth, and if it's not the truth, then it's nothing. And so we've had a good time tonight, kicking around some myths and some funny things. So I don't want to rush anyone. If anyone else had anything else they wanted to share.
We didn't talk about Zelf.
Oh, let's mention Zelf real quick, because
Ruth is in Arizona, so she can stay up a little longer than the rest of us. Keep it going, Ruth.
Yeah,
No.
I'm in no hurry. Let's mention Zelf, and let's mention Moonquakers. Let's do Zelf, Moonquakers, and people living on the sun. Who wants to take those?
I only know the mounds. I'm not going to even say these right. Joseph Smith saw some bones, and he said, "Oh, that's Zelf the Lamanite." So
the white Lamanite.
White Lamanite.
And I think it might be the only bones of any of them that were ever found.
Yep.
I think this is where Zelf on the Shelf comes in.
Yeah.
He was the follower of the prophet Onondagas or something like that. He was known from the mountains, Rocky Mountains to the coast. His fame was wide. And
then the Moonquakers was
was that a prophet?
Joseph had said that there were people living on the moon. They are
they're dressed like Quakers.
and like
6 feet tall.
6 feet tall.
They live 1,000 years.
And
wasn't Mormonism so cool?
Nice.
It used to be so cool. Now it's just blah.
And I can just see Joseph Smith sitting there bragging to his friends like, "Oh yeah, I've got my seer stone, and I looked, and this is what God showed me." And we've got patriarchal blessings from people who are blessed that they'd be translated to go from planet to teach, or even going to the moon. So this is all, it's all fits right in with the apologists today will say that's like a secondhand story. We can't trust it, but it fits right in with all the other theology and other things that they were teaching and saying back then. So I believe this. I believe it's accurate.
And then who was it that said something about on the moon? Was that Brigham Young?
That was Brigham Young. So the sun.
I'm sorry, the sun. Yeah, the moon was Joseph.
Yep. The suns are celestialized worlds. So the people that live on the sun are celestial beings. So that's what that's all about. It's like these planets, these stars are not built in vain. They're people that live there.
So Masterpiece, is that a myth or is that doctrine?
He's gave that talk. You can find it in the Journal of Discourses.
Doctrine.
So is it doctrine or is it a myth?
Sun's beings. It was taught. It was taught by a prophet. Whether they call that doctrine anymore, it sounds like doctrine to me. If a prophet's teaching this from the pulpit,
it was taught as doctrine then, but
yes.
It's a myth.
Oh, and that brings up a good point that and there's been a lot of talk about this recently, but we used to know stuff in Mormonism. Like we knew everything. We knew, of course, where we came from, why we're here, where we're going, but also who the Lamanites were, where the Hill Cumorah was, where Garden of Eden is. All of these things we used to know, and we don't hardly know anything anymore. It's, every day it seems like we're distancing ourselves more and more from the things we used to know. So
I think that's society in general, though.
Yeah, I bought Mormon Doctrine as a teenager, and I loved that book, and I was so impressed that we knew so much. And I felt sorry for all the other Christian churches who didn't know as much, because we had all these answers, and I had this book that had all the answers to pretty much anything you could think of, and now we don't like that book. So
well, you can't even buy it at anymore at Deseret, can you?
No.
Yeah,
they stopped that in the early 2000s, I think.
A year ago, I found one in a antique store in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they're by the dozens in thrift stores, along with Miracle of Forgiveness. I got a first edition Miracle of Forgiveness from the thrift store. So I was really proud of that.
Yep.
Wow.
Mine's pretty old. I don't know.
Well, guys, here we go. Oh, Chris has got one. Chris has got the non-member. Chris has got more Mormonism books than I do. I mean, but
Wait,
the
Chris
ones
has
I
what?
have, the ones I have are they're marked up more. I bet, Chris.
Well, you know, these are I have looking right here. I've got 2 Miracle of Forgiveness still sealed, so there's some value to them, by the way.
Hold on
And
to them.
two Mormon doctrines here, still sealed. I think I've got a quad in here that's still sealed. But I don't know where all of my working copies of everything is. I've turned my house upside down, but you know, eventually I'll come around to finding it.
I've got 2 as a thief in the nights for you if you're bidding here. I got 2, collectibles.
Some
someday.
bartering
Are they
going
still
on.
Sealed? Are they still
No,
sealed?
they're not. No, they're
Not
not sealed. 'Cause
sealed.
you've been reading them and
They're well
studying.
read.
So I can trade you 1 sealed copy of Mormon Doctrine for 2 unsealed.
It's like Pokemon trading cards in here now.
I actually have no
Mormonism's
idea
fun
what
forever.
book is that you're referring to.
All right, so non-member Chris, current Bishop Craig, thank you to Nathan and Emily, Masterpiece and Ruth. You guys are always just so spot on and a good support. And Gene, love you, man. You've been supporting me the whole time. We appreciate the 110 people who are still here listening to us, just cutting up. We're going to do this again, and I want to see how many people this program can handle. I know I can do 9, maybe 10. And so this has been fun, but I'm going to let everybody go. I'm going to go find my wife and see what she's doing. So I'm going to hit my theme music, and it's going to count us down. 1. Oh, that's it.
Bye.
Let me see.
Oh,
3, 2, 1.
It's not going. See y'all.
See ya.